Man, I hope you guys are ready for a win. A big win, a massive win, I might say, and of all places coming out of New Jersey. Dear gun controllers, continue losing, enjoy losing. We're going to come for our rights. We're going to relegate you to the dustbin of history because even in New Jersey, where you have your little pet projects of, sensitive places, licensing fees, mandated insurance requirements for gun rights that are part of our actual Bill of Rights, they're even getting struck down. And we're just getting started. Okay, guys, if you are down for this fight, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, because every time that you do that, you make these gun controllers not only lose in court, but they stub their toes in the middle of the night, which who doesn't want that? Let's get it, people. All right, listen. I got to talk to you about something that's come out of New Jersey. Of course, that was an antagonistic opener, and quite honestly, I believe it wholeheartedly, because they're even losing in New Jersey. Now, one of the things that I'm about to walk you through with this breaking decision is you are winning. Like, objectively. This is not even a question. You know what? We're going to go big real quick. It's not even a question. You are openly and overtly winning. You have two options in this, at least the way that I see it. I can sit in the corner and I can be pissed that someone's daring to assault my rights, or I can take part in the fight of our generation and tell the generation behind us they have more rights because we were involved in the fight of our day, so they are set up better for the fight of their day. If you want to be part of that and you want to be able to say you fought actively, subscribe to this channel. This is what we do. This is why we do it. I've been saying we're winning for 3 to 4 years, and I get a lot of shit for it, to be quite candid. But look, even more. All right, let's get it. It's important. FPC. The Third Circuit Court has ruled that New Jersey's bans on carrying in private vehicles and on private property by default, along with the state's liability insurance requirement for carry permits and a $50 permit fee for the Victims of Crime Compensation Office account, likely violate the Second Amendment. That's like 4 or 5 of their sacred cows, the newest ones. These are like the sacred calves. These are the things that they put in place as novel new ideas of ways to infringe for common sense safety. And the courts in New Jersey, New freaking Jersey, just said they're unconstitutional. Guys, we're going to dive into all that right now. But like legitimately, if you say or you're in the party that says we're still losing, I don't know what else I could say to you. We are actively kicking their asses. Oh, the time for antagonism and the time to just roll and pour in is now. All right, everything is linked. FPC, here's the opinion letter. Let me show you a few things that you need to know. All right, so here it is in general. Again, I'll link it. I'm not going to go through every single one of these because this document's like 100 pages. But check this out. I'm going to zoom into this part real quick. Constitutionality of the challenge provisions. And now I'm going to go through these one by one because this is the magic sauce. Below, we address the insurance and permitting aspects of the statute before turning to its description of sensitive places. Our disposition of the plaintiff's first 3 challenges to the liability insurance requirement, payment to the Victims of Crime Compensation Office, and the 4 reputable persons requirement turns on the factual and historical record pertaining to each claim. Guys, let's freaking go. Watch this. All right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. We're going to bounce around this document. That's just the sensitive places. Okay, I want to talk to you about something else, though. Remember that conclusion I was just telling you about? I'm going to get down to the point. Again, all I'm doing is going through this in a finding of the document. I believe it's 10 out of 11. Come on, where is it? Hold on a second. Again, these are really big documents. There we go. Let me read this conclusion to you. Again, this is from the court document. I'm bouncing around, but just bear with me. Everything's linked. Throughout our nation's history, the people have time and time again opted to limit the use of firearms at specific venues set aside for civic purposes, namely governmental and democratic functions and the public places akin to the fairs and markets of old. Okay? By imposing permitting requirements and restricting when and where firearms can be carried, our democratically elected leaders acknowledge that there are trade-offs between the protections of the Second Amendment and fellow citizens' enjoyment of functional government and a host of other constitutionally enshrined rights, including the right to speak, worship, protest, and vote. Those leaders, informed by local needs, modern circumstances, and the desires of the people today, work to achieve a balance of these interests. That's your first one, right there. Balance of these interests. You know what is not allowed to be used anymore? Balance of interest. The Bruin decision kicked it to the curb because interest balancing, and hold on, we got to come big. Come here. Interest balancing is the way that they would argue and say that your rights aren't important versus the rights of the collective or the rights of the many or the rights of the masses, right? If you are new to this fight, you have to understand the underlying principles of the way that these people take your rights is through these obfuscations of conversation and language in order to achieve their means. And what I mean by that is this. Well, yes, you absolutely have a Second Amendment right. Of course you do. My cousin and uncle are hunters. I own a gun. Therefore, I'm just like you. So, but you have to understand the balance of these interests. And so what we're going to do is we're going to restrict your rights. Like you can't buy a certain level of firearm. You can't buy certain magazines. You can't go to certain places. You can't do all of these things. Sure, it says shall not be infringed, and it is the right of the people to keep and bear arms. But think of the interest balancing requirements. Think of the population. It's just common sense for safety. Or they'll go a different direction, and they'll say, guys, yes, it is. You have your rights, the right to keep and bear. It's so crucial, but we need to impose this $50 fee on your licensing for your right requirement because it's for safety. And of course, because that is a necessity, we have to also do fingerprinting for enhanced background checks, which also costs more money, which would be unfair for the government to bear that burden. So you're going to need to go ahead and pony out that money again for your rights. Almost like there's going to be a chilling effect on those that can't afford it. But guys, it's the interest balancing for the safety of the population. It's exactly what they do. You want to go back even further? I'll give you one more example. 1934, National Firearms Act. Well, we can't take your guns away from you. That'd be unconstitutional. But we can tax your rights because using the power of taxation, which would make it an item illegal, therefore we're well within our bounds because Congress has the power to tax, but they don't have the power to take your guns. But if they tax your guns and they tax things that are your rights, then it's okay because they have the power of taxation. See how they do it? If you're new, welcome to the party. We are winning. Slowly, death by 1,000 cuts, but we're winning. Let's keep going. It is ironic that we, who are neither elected officials nor historians, may not consider that balancing, they're pissed because Bruin, but only the extent to which it resembles the balancing of legislatures in bygone eras. They're upset that they have to talk about the history, text, and tradition, Bruin decision. Nevertheless, we have done our best to distill the principles of our nation's tradition of firearm regulation from the available historical record, and what we have found convinces us that New Jersey's law, at least in part, continues that tradition. They are torturing the language in order to achieve some sort of gun control stay, but they still have to undermine the sensitive places, the licensing fees, and the carrying a firearm in your car or on private property. Again, if I go back to this is the important piece. The Third Circuit Court has ruled the New Jersey's bans on carrying in private vehicles and on private property by default, along with the state's liability insurance requirement for carry permits and $50 carry fee for the crime, likely violate the Second Amendment. Now, the next one we're going to hit here is the state's liability insurance requirement. That's a big one. So, this is the whole point. Let me read this really quickly. Accordingly, we will reverse the district court's injunction as to the reputable persons requirement, which means you have to have 4 people say you're, a good person. They're going to revoke public gatherings, zoos, parks, beaches, recreation facilities, public libraries, museums, locations that serve alcohol, entertainment facilities, casinos, healthcare facilities, public transit. We will affirm as to the liability insurance, private property, and youth sports events. Okay, all of this is available. The bottom line at the high level, they're going to go through each of these parse by parse by parse, and they're going to get to this point right here. Third Circuit has ruled that private vehicles, private property, state's liability insurance, and $50 carry fee is unconstitutional. The last one I want to do is something about the actual insurance liability carry coverage requirement. This was basically, how do I say that? This was promulgated, this was spearheaded, this was introduced by California in San Jose. Okay, this caught like wildfire because gun controllers operate in a hive mind. If it works in California, they're going to do it in New Jersey, New York, they're going to do it in Illinois, and then they're going to see if it can go out everywhere else. That's what they do. They use them as little petri dishes. With the falling of the liability insurance requirement for carry permits, that means that you can't basically require insurance on rights. That's a really big one. Sensitive places just took a hit. Insurance just took a hit. Fees on constitutional rights just took a hit. And we're just getting started. Everything will be linked in the description box below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden.